OnlyFans model realized her murder was recorded. Oh, this shit about to get straight. All right, let's get straight to it. Let's get straight to it.
2019, at precisely 8:45 a.m., the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office received a chilling 911 call.
911, what is your emergency?
911. I woke up on my boyfriend here. He was outside this morning. He's cold. He was just drinking. He's cold. I found him outside. The kitchen's a bloody mess. He's not breathing.
Why is the kitchen a bloody mess? Hello?
I don't know. I need paramedics.
All right, stay on the line. I'm going to connect you to fire rescue, okay?
Please get them here. 4, 2, 3, 4.
Delaware County Fire Rescue. What's the address of the emergency? And tell me what's wrong.
He is non-responsive.
First responders quickly arrived at the caller's residence at 9801 White Barn Way. Upon arrival, Hillsborough officers were met by 20...
She did OnlyFans? Y'all niggas about anything, bro. That shit crazy. Y'all niggas about anything. Shit.
26-year-old Melissa Turner, who was covered in blood. She told first responders the blood was from administering CPR to the victim. She immediately led them to the back of the house where her fiancé, 25-year-old Matthew Trussler, was unresponsive and cold. He was lying face up by the swimming pool with multiple stab wounds and lacerations on his body. The medical unit arrived moments later, but sadly, Matthew was pronounced dead at the scene. Melissa watched as a sheet was laid over his body. Inside the home, there was a trail of blood drops that began in an office on the ground floor. Following the trail led the detectives right to the family room and then to the kitchen. The kitchen was an absolute bloodbath, with items knocked over and scattered all around the room, including a broken glass jar, multiple kitchen knives, and a switchblade. The blood trail then led to an open back window, continued into the backyard, and ended at Matthew's body. It was safe to say that a major struggle had taken place, and after bleeding out in the kitchen, Matthew used every ounce of life that he had left to escape through the window into the backyard, where he later succumbed to his injuries. All of the evidence was collected, which included a smartwatch that Matthew was still wearing, and a home security camera that was installed in the hallway of the house. As a thorough search of the residence and surrounding area commenced, Melissa was brought into the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for an interview.
How long have you been
2.5 years. We're engaged.
Throughout the interview, Melissa provides bits and pieces of information about her and Matthew's life. Melissa was bullied as a teenager for being overweight, but as she transitioned into young adulthood, she began taking her health and wellness seriously and lost over 100 pounds. This newfound lifestyle gave her the confidence to begin sharing photos of her body anonymously through her Tumblr named Two Thorned Rose. She eventually realized that she could supplement her income if she could somehow monetize what she was doing. So, she became a self-proclaimed cam girl.
I am Two Thorned Rose. I'm a cam model. I'm an artist. I love fitness.
This was only meant to be temporary, but she was quickly able to quit her 2 part-time retail jobs, and the new business became a full-time gig. In order to maximize her profits, Melissa ended up finding her niche in horror-themed cosplay adult films. Melissa was good enough at her job to be making a substantial amount of money, but some of her fans believed that she would take things too far. One viewer stated that she shot some really crazy stuff, and that she was always into blood. In 2017, she met Matthew on Tinder.
I rebuke you. Hold on. What you got going on?
Each other. After 2 years of dating, they were able to buy a house where they began building their life together. As romantic as this love story was, the detectives were more interested in the hours leading up to Matthew's death.
Let me take us, or can you take us back to yesterday? From the time you guys woke up and to kind of how we got here today.
Yeah. This is what you say.
The best that you can. That's all we're asking for.
Melissa told the detectives that the day before started like any other. She woke up at around 4:30 a.m. and worked until about 8 a.m. Afterwards, she and Matthew walked their dog. And then Melissa exercised in their garage while Matthew cleaned up around the house. They visited a Home Depot and then a Publix grocery store to grab lunch, which Matthew cooked at home. After sending some emails and doing some more cleaning, they ate dinner, ended the night with a few drinks, and played some card games.
That's what we would do on a night when we didn't have to get up and do anything the next morning. We had drinks. He always liked drinking. He was a drinker.
Did he have? Would you say he had a drinking problem or no?
He had a drinking problem.
I'm gonna keep it a being, bro. They thinking she did it from the jump, bro. There's no evidence of forced entry. It's struggle from everywhere inside the house. And you're covered in blood. If you're giving CPR, you probably wouldn't be covered in blood. Probably like your hands and your arms. Your whole body covered in blood. Like they think it's shorty from the jump. No, I don't think she got gloves on.
Okay.
His mom will tell you the same thing. He will admit it himself.
What about you?
Me? No.
Besides the alcohol last night, were there any drugs?
No.
We're not the drug police, so I'm
No.
just asking.
No, he would never touch any of that. Because that was a deal breaker for me, and he knew that. He knew if he touched anything like that again, that he would lose me.
Okay.
Okay.
The peak of Matthew's drug abuse was in 2015. He then decided to get his life back together and move in with his brother. By the time Matthew met Melissa in 2017, Matthew was still clean.
That was my number one deal breaker with him.
And I'm assuming.
So, the drug police, he was not shy about it in his past when he was younger. He was into hard drugs.
Okay.
But it's been years since then because he knew that was my number one deal breaker. If he touched it again, we were done. I didn't give a shit. That was it.
What time did you go to bed last night?
I mean, like I said, we were having some drinks. But I remember getting really tired around 10, and I just wanted to go to bed. And 10:30-ish was when I remember 10:30, 11 maybe is when I remember going to curl up on the chair because I slept on that big chair that's in my little office area downstairs.
Crying no more than nothing.
Apparently, Melissa slept in the next morning and woke up around 8:30 a.m.
I don't know. I normally don't sleep in. But whatever time, I remember waking up and I didn't see him around. I saw the kitchen was.
So now you're saying there was a big ass scuffle in multiple rooms in your house, and you slept through all of it. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
I didn't see him outside at first. It was cold. I pulled him to the ground.
I know this must be very difficult for you.
It feels like a dream.
No, it ain't. She did.
Did you hear anything
No.
last night?
No.
Like in the night?
No.
What do you think happened?
I mean, you understand just from our standpoint, obviously, we weren't there last night. If you could just take your best guess of what you thought could have happened.
I don't know.
The detectives asked Melissa if there was a chance that Matthew's death could have been an accident.
He always told me he had a feeling he was going to die young.
An accident. There's
What the
blood
detectives didn't know
everywhere.
yet was that back at the crime scene, a medical examiner had arrived to evaluate Matthew's body. He had a defensive wound on his right forearm, a large laceration to his chest, a small cut to the right shoulder, and a large stab wound on his back. It was clear that Matthew's death was no accident.
Do you have any injuries on your person?
No?
Any scratches or cuts or anything?
Yeah, I have a little cut. Right there.
So now you got cuts too. Let's talk about it. So he got cuts, you got cuts, but you was asleep during this altercation.
And that's from what?
Talk about it.
I think it's from grabbing the glass. Wait.
You lying?
Do you know where or
I
what?
remember it was a hard rock glass, I believe, in the kitchen, and I think I picked up a piece of it on the floor.
Was there any fighting or arguing last night? Do you all have a history of any kind of fighting or arguing?
Don't lie.
Nothing. I mean, couples argue sometimes. We never really fought.
She snitched on herself.
We would argue.
Goofy.
So there was no arguing last night.
We were having a great time.
The detectives decided that now would be a good time for a break so that Melissa's injuries could be photographed and bandaged. DNA and fingerprints were also collected. During this time, they touched base with the investigators who had processed the crime scene. They learned about Matthew's defensive wounds and the stab wound to his back, ruling out the theory that Matthew could have been responsible for his own death. But there was more. While investigators were canvassing the area surrounding the crime scene, they discovered that one of the neighbors had a Nest surveillance camera which could see just over Melissa and Matthew's fence into their backyard. While this camera angle wasn't ideal, the camera also recorded audio, and an intense altercation was captured between Melissa and Matthew around 4 to 4:30 a.m. that morning. With this new piece of evidence uncovered, the second half of Melissa's interview quickly turned into a full-on interrogation.
Tell me about what happened around 4 o'clock this morning. Was there any arguing?
At 4 o'clock? Not that I know of.
Were you asleep at 4 o'clock this morning?
To my knowledge, yes.
8:45 is when the call came in, so you said about 20 minutes, maybe, even if you lost track of time, say you wake up at 8. Any time between, but at 11 last night to 8 this morning, did you have any argument?
No.
I'm lying.
Not that I know of.
The cook.
So we've been talking to the neighbors. There's cameras all over the neighborhood.
Got your
There's
ass.
Ring doorbell cameras and everything.
Okay.
Okay.
Got your
Around
ass.
4 o'clock this morning, something happened at your house. That's why we're asking.
What were the neighbors saying? What?
It ain't what the neighbors are saying. It's what's on
What is-
video.
what-
There's arguing coming from the house. It's a male and a female.
If it was at 4 in the morning, I will tell you right now, I did not stay up until 4 in the morning.
Although she initially sticks to her guns, the
Okay.
detectives are persistent and her
Alright.
story quickly begins to
Fold,
change.
The argument was him waking me up because he was a night person, as I've told you guys.
So now I had a now I had an argument, huh? Alright.
Him staying up till 4 in the morning whenever he got drunk is not unheard of. I would say he woke me up. We got in an argument over that. Being up at 4 in the morning, drunk off your ass, wasn't doing anybody any good. And that was what the argument was about then.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, you do have a memory of what happened, right? At
Yes.
4 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
Melissa chalks up the argument to her simply being upset about a drunk Matthew waking her up at 4 a.m. But considering the intensity of the argument captured on
Yeah,
the surveillance
wasn't
camera, and of course Matthew's gruesome death, the detectives believe something much more explosive happened that Melissa was not divulging. So they continue pressuring Melissa to tell the truth, and it's not long before she shares a darker version of her story.
Talking about it more now, thinking back on it, this is from me grabbing a knife out of his hand. I swear he'd never hit me, never laid a hand on me, even when drunk. I will not let his name go down like that. But I do remember pissing him off when I tried to get the knife out of his hand.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, when my neck isn't from me, and my jaw's sore, like I got hit. And I remember being thrown over the counter. He got pissed off, got a little more aggressive with what he was doing.
Okay, and how did you react?
I was scared at first. I'm not trying to be dumb about this. I'm a lawyer.
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead.
You a little late. You a little late. I ain't gonna lie. That should have been the first thing you asked for since you walked through the door. Can I get a motherfucking lawyer? You late. I ain't gonna lie to you. You big late. You didn't ring your mouth. It's too late for that.
Conclude the interview at 14:06 hours.
As soon as Melissa asks for a lawyer, the detectives conclude the interview. As Melissa sits alone in the interrogation room, she becomes paranoid and begins to panic.
This can't be my life.
Mm-hmm. Like tweaking.
No. What is happening? Could you at least come in here and keep me company? I feel like I'm gonna fall apart. I can see you. Did I just get left in here now? Going to freeze me out? Can we please turn the AC off in here? Oh God, it's so cold. Am I not allowed a blanket or anything?
Nobody over there. The door was behind. What? Ain't nobody over
We were
there.
going to Walmart today. We were going to get Halloween decorations. Oh.
Someone eventually comes back and they collect Melissa's clothes as evidence, and they bring her some McDonald's. Right after this, Melissa was arrested and charged with the second-degree murder of Matthew Trussler. In subsequent interviews with Matthew's family, they strongly denied the allegations made by Melissa regarding Matthew's mental health. The only negative thing they had to say was that Matthew had gradually grown distant from the family, which they believe was due to Melissa intentionally manipulating and isolating him. Thanks to Melissa's lucrative career, she was easily able to pay her bond. She then participated in a media interview professing her innocence and sharing her story.
We ended up struggling back and forth for the knife. I got my hand sliced open. He had pushed me into the countertop. I had marks on my stomach from it. And then turned me around and he had his hands around my throat. Losing him, losing his family that I loved as my family.
Melissa's trial began on February 14th, 2022. In their opening
Yo,
statement,
if we watch one more video where it's somebody, where this motherfucking girl get away, it's gonna be an issue.
the prosecution
Yo.
pointed to the fact that Melissa had dialed 911 4 hours after the incident, pretending to
Exactly.
not know what had happened. They argued that Melissa's actions and behavior before and after the incident indicated that she was a calculated killer.
Exactly.
Additionally, the
Guilty as
prosecutors were
fuck.
adamant that her inconsistent statements were attempts to deceive authorities as well as downplay her involvement. Once she realized the detectives were onto her, she fabricated a narrative of self-defense. The defense argued that Melissa did in fact act in self-defense, and that Matthew's death was a result of his own aggressive behavior. They also suggested that the neighbor's surveillance audio was manipulated to amplify Melissa's voice, making it sound louder than it actually was.
So it could be that maybe one voice on the recording was not amplified and that another voice on the recording was greatly amplified.
Throughout the course of the trial, all of
In the video, his voice was real quiet. Her voice was loud as shit. I did peep that, and the house was across the street. But still,
the evidence
the
was
fuck?
revealed to the jury. The crime scene photos, which showed the aftermath of a brutal attack on Matthew, the bloody knives, one of which they believed to be the murder weapon, and the surveillance footage with the audio of Melissa and Matthew's argument. On top of these items, they also presented footage to the court that was recorded by a motion-activated camera that was inside Melissa and Matthew's home. At 3:39 a.m.,
Here we go,
Melissa is
here we
seen
go, here we
running
go.
towards the office.
Here we go.
At
Here
3:42
we go.
a.m., Matthew walks past the camera towards the kitchen with Melissa right behind him, a disgusted look on her face. At 4:09 a.m., she is captured stopping near the front door and talking to herself. The prosecutors pointed out a faint hue of red on her right hand, possibly blood. The defense fought against this, saying that the footage was not clear enough to draw any conclusions on the state of her hand. She turns around and heads back into the kitchen. The final clip is 4 hours later. At 8:35 a.m., Melissa can be seen wandering around the house with what appears to be a bad case of bedhead. And remember the smartwatch retrieved from Matthew's wrist back at the crime scene. Investigators analyzed the data from that watch, and it revealed that his heart stopped at 4:31 a.m., further solidifying the timeline of the crime. When it was the defense's turn to call witnesses, they made the bold decision to call Melissa herself to the stand.
There were times where he would push me and punch the walls beside my head. He would stare off at some corners and he would tell me that there's a demon standing right there. There were times where he would talk in a different voice.
Did that frighten you?
God, yes. I was terrified.
She tearfully recounted her version of events. According to Melissa, Matthew became violent during an argument. He choked her, threw her across a counter, and proceeded to grab a knife. Apparently, a head
she do
injury
that
along
works.
with alcohol caused Melissa to black out at one point. But she still remembers when Matthew put down the knife to start strangling her again. In self-defense, she grabbed the knife off the counter and stabbed him in the back. Nearing the end of her testimony, her defense thought it was crucial to address the elephant in the room. Melissa lying to the detectives and changing her story during her interrogation.
she about to say she was scared. She about to get away with this shit, bro. She's about to get away with this shit, bro. She's about to get. Oh my god.
In your first interview, you didn't go into these details with the detective. Why is that?
Scared.
I
She's media trained now, bro. It's over. She's media trained. Oh my god, she's media trained. We're cooked.
was confused. I was uncomfortable. My head was pounding. I had told them so many times about my head, and I told them that I couldn't think straight because of it.
During cross-examination, the prosecution bombarded Melissa with questions about her drastically inconsistent statements.
Today, in 2022, you now claim you had some kind of head injury, correct?
Yes.
And now, in 2022, you speak of some kind of blackout, correct? Yes?
Correct.
Okay.
She was also questioned about the things she was heard saying on the...
Hey, this is why you do not take the stand. Because, yes, your team go eat it up. But, nigga, you don't know what the other question... Yeah, hell nah. Don't ever take the stand. Especially if you know you did it, don't take the stand. And if y'all winning, yeah, don't take the stand.
The surveillance camera footage.
You said 4:33 a.m., so effing die, right?
No, I have no recollection of that. I explained my side and why I did what I did.
You're crying right now. Is that what's happening? Are you crying right now?
Do you know what?
Black people, bro. you know a black woman go, hey, they go get your ass.
Are you crying because you can just cry on cue?
I'm crying because my life is on the line right now. I'm crying because I still remember all those places, all those plans.
Oh, she's media trained.
The defense also called the medical examiner to
she's too
stand.
fucking nice.
They
This is
stated that in
ridiculous.
their report, Matthew's blood alcohol level was so high at the time of his death that it was nearly 5 times the legal limit to drive in Florida. Although he wasn't driving anywhere, they suggested that this high level of intoxication, along with his mental health issues,
Is that a beer pong? That's fire.
caused Matthew to become erratic, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous. On February 18th, 2022, after 5 days of testimony, Melissa Turner's murder trial wrapped up.
Your duty is to determine if the defendant has been proven guilty or not in accord with the law.
The jury deliberated, and after 7 hours, they reached a unanimous verdict.
Publish the verdict and poll the jurors, please.
We, the jury, find as follows as to the charge. The defendant is guilty of murder in the second degree.
Melissa Turner was found guilty of second-degree murder using a weapon. Her sentencing hearing was on March 18th, 2022. Before a sentence was given, Matthew's mother provided a touching impact statement to the court.
Believe it or not, I don't believe that your greatest crime is having murdered Matthew. But actually, it's what you've done to his memory in the aftermath of his death in order to preserve your own life. The story that you have contrived has caused me as much pain as his death. If Matthew's drinking was escalating and he was depressed, it was because of a lifestyle that you involved him in. It was not consistent with who he was and with the way that he was raised. If anyone was a victim of domestic violence, abuse, and manipulation, sadly, it was Matthew.
Melissa's mother also spoke to the court. She defended her daughter, stating that Melissa was a good person who always tried to avoid conflict.
This jury did not believe her claims of self-defense, nor does this court.
Melissa Turner was sentenced to 20.5 years in prison. Following her sentencing, Melissa spoke to the court one last time. She tearfully expressed how much she loved Matthew and never meant to hurt him.
Matthew lost his life, and I lost the man that I loved. I lost my future and my hopes and my dreams. I didn't want to do that to him. The last thing that he wanted, and I knew it because he always tried to hide everything, his drinking, his mental health, and how depressed he was. He tried to hide it from everyone. The last thing that he would want was for the world to know any of it.
Melissa currently resides at the Lowell Correctional Institution in Marion County, Florida. She is set to be released in 2042.
This shit's crazy, 20 ball, that's low-key kind of it. I'm looking kind of salty. A 20 ball, that's it. I'm looking kind of, hold on. A 20 ball, that's it. Bro, chat, how y'all feeling, bro? What y'all think? Y'all let me know how y'all feel, bro, in the comments, bro. Y'all let me know how y'all feel, bro. Was that self-defense? Or did she actually do that shit? Y'all let me know how y'all feel, bro. Real talk,